Victoria. Okay, so we completed Linux basic commands. Next, so we are good to start with the SQL language. So SQL, the extension language is PLSQL. So if you are good with these two, you can start any DBA course. These two are the basic, the prerequisites to start. Before starting DBA course, you have to familiar with these two prerequisites. We already completed these Linux basic commands. So we are going to start SQL. So SQL is the structured query language, PL procedure language. So it's a language for all the database. It's a common language SQL. So what are the database are there? You can say Oracle, MySQL, PostgreSQL. Yes, Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL. Next, MongoDB. Yes, Cassandra. These all are databases. So these are all the database, the common language to work with any database. There is a language is there. For all the database, there is a common language is there. That is the SQL, structured query language. Structured query language. So if you want to work with any database, if you want to, so I can say, okay. So if you want to work with any database, we need to familiar with this language, that is SQL language, structured query language. So for all the database, the common language is same. So before starting SQL, yes, we need to install PostgreSQL database. PostgreSQL database. Okay. So before starting the database, so what is the purpose of database? What is the purpose of database? To store the data. To store the data, yes, we are using database. If you want to, suppose if you take Flipkart, if you take Flipkart or any banking application, any banking application, any application, whatever the application you are using. Suppose if you take Flipkart, Amazon, Amazon, okay, so Redbus, whatever. So whatever the online, what are the applications you are using? For any application backend, they have to use one database to store the data. Suppose if you log into Flipkart, if you keep one order, yes, if you ordered something, yes, the while submitting the order, yes, it's required customer phone number, customer name, customer address. These all the details we have to fill. Then only we can submit the order. Yes, once you submit the order, the whatever the data you provided, that is the data. So where the data can store inside the database. That means for each and every application, backend it's configured. Backend it's configured one database. Yes, that means any application backend they should configure one database. So what is the purpose of database? To store the data. To store the data. You can use any database, not only PostgreSQL. You can use Oracle, you can use MS you can use MongoDB, you can use any DB. Finally the purpose of database is to store the data. To store the data. So what are the database available? These are all databases. So initially, before database, how the data will be stored? Initially, they use files. We know in government offices still they are using files. Okay. So initially the data will be they used some registered files. In the registered they enter the data manually. So later they introduced a DBMS, database management system. Database database management system. So initially they used files or registers. Files are registers to store the data. That is the temporarily. So it's not easy to store more data inside the files. This is not securely registered. This is not securely to store the data. Yes. Later they introduced DBMS, database management system. So they improved something. So top of the registers, yes, they introduced a DBMS, data management system. Suppose MS Excel. You can say MS Excel. So if you compare to register MS Excel, Excel is the better to store the data. So later they introduced RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. RDBMS. So initially the data will be stored in the form of files or registers. That is not easy to store the data, to retrieve the data. So that's why they introduced DBMS, database management system. Later in this DBMS they used Excel. So Excel all are nowadays all are knows Excel. This is the Excel to store the data. Compared to register, this is the better. But still this in this also there is some challenges are there. To overcome those challenges, they introduced the RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. Relational Database Management System. So here RDBMS, how the data will be stored? Data will be data will be stored in the form of tables. In the form of tables. So what is the meaning of table? Table, it contains rows and columns. Rows and columns. So this is the one row. This is the row. Column means, let me, you can say, paint. So suppose this is the table. Yes, this is the column. Suppose if you take employee table, employee number, E number, yes, employee number, yes, that is the employee number column. So employee name, you can say employee name. This is the second column. This column can store the employee name details. Next, employee address. Employee address. You can say employee address. Employee address. Employee address. So like this, a table contains rows and columns. This is the third column. Like this is the first row. This is the second row. This is the third row. This is the fourth row. So this is we call as a table, employee table, EMP table. That means a table contains rows and columns. So whatever that I can say, whatever the red color, these are the columns. First column, second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column. A table it contains n number of columns and n number of rows. So what are the rows? The can say these all are rows. So if you take a RDBMS, relation means table, relational database management system. How can manage the data using RDBMS? We have to use tables to store the data in the form of tables. So here we are using language SQL. In RDBMS, we are using SQL language to store the data. Yes, to store the data. How to create a table? We have to use SQL language. How to see the table data? How to drop the table? So there we required one language, that is SQL language. SQL means structured query language. Structured query language. You can say structured query language, SQL. So DBMS. So what is the tool we are using to store the data? Excel. In files, we are using registers to store the data. There is some disadvantage there. Registers. So it's not a secure to store the data. So later they use DBMS, database management system. There we used Excel. Here also there is a challenges are there to store the data Excel to see the data. So later they introduced RDBMS, relational database management system. Here how can store the data? To store the data we used tables. A table it contains rows and columns. So for RDBMS, we must use one language, that is SQL. So what are the RDBMS products? What are the RDBMS products? You can say what are the RDBMS products? These all are people called as a RDBMS products. So these all the database support which language? These all the databases support which language?
SQL.
SQL, structured query language. That's why before work with the database, you should familiar database language. What is the database language? SQL. So what are the RDBMS products? Oracle. Oracle is one of the RDBMS product. So Oracle should support a SQL language. How can store the data in Oracle? Form of tables. MySQL also one of the RDBMS product. It supports SQL language. How can store the data in MySQL? We should use tables in the form of tables. PostgreSQL, this also support RDBMS product. It supports SQL. Okay, PostgreSQL is one of the RDBMS product. So these all the database people called as a RDBMS products. If any database people called as a RDBMS, for all the products, RDBMS product should support what language? SQL. So that's why. So we started with the course is PostgreSQL DBA. PostgreSQL is one of the RDBMS product. So we should familiar database language, that is SQL. For SQL extension, PLSQL. First, we have to familiar with SQL. The extension of SQL is PLSQL, procedure language. Clear? Anyone? Any queries? If no queries, we'll install. How to install PostgreSQL database. Okay. So we can install on Windows operating system. Second, on Linux operating system. In real time, mostly we are using Linux operating system, but okay, there is a less chance of Windows operating system. So we should familiar with both Windows and Linux. So first we'll install Windows. How to install PostgreSQL? First install PostgreSQL database on Windows operating system. We'll see how to connect the database after installing. If everything good, once we done on the Windows operating system, we'll install on the Linux operating system. So how to download? So if you want to install PostgreSQL database, first what are the steps for need to follow? Download PostgreSQL database. Download PostgreSQL database. First, we have to download PostgreSQL database. It's a open source or community. It's a open source or license. It's a open source database only. Open source means yes. Open source database means yes. You can say PostgreSQL database will be available in below editions. One is open source community version of PostgreSQL, or open source PostgreSQL DB. Okay, second, EDB PostgreSQL. EDB means enterprise PostgreSQL DB. EDB means it's a licensed database. It's a licensed DB. Wherever you see the enterprise keyword, the database, it's available license only. It's not available free of cost. So this is for community version of PostgreSQL database. Community version of PostgreSQL database. Wherever see community version or open source keyword, open source keyword. That means it's this database available free of cost. So we are going to initially we are going to download and install this open source database only. End of the course, end of the DBA course. So we'll see how to install EDB database. There is no differences. So there is a small differences compared to open source database and EDB. So we'll see end of the DBA course. We'll see what is the differences EDB and the community version. So now we need to we go with the open source database only. So how to download open source database? Download open source download open source PostgreSQL database. PostgreSQL database. SQL database. Once download, install PostgreSQL DB on Windows operating system. First we install on Windows. We'll see later for Linux. So where we can download this open source database? www.postgresql.org. postgresql.sql.org. So this is the website. This is the website where we can download open source database only. If you want to download open source database, where we can, what is the website? www.postgresql.org. You have to visit this website. There you can download the database for Windows. So now today we are going to install on Windows. Let's see. Installing PostgreSQL DB on Windows operating system, not Linux. We'll see Linux tomorrow. Windows operating system. So what are the steps? What are the steps need to follow? First, we have to download a PostgreSQL database. Once download, install PostgreSQL database. Let's see. Let's go and visit. What is the website? postgresql.org. You can say the same. What is the website? The same. Yes or no? www.postgresql.org. This is the website where we can download, install open source PostgreSQL only. Click on download. I want to download software. Yes. Click on download. So where you want to install, on Windows or on Linux operating system or on Mac OS or Linux, which OS where you want to install? On Windows. So choose the operating system. Click on Windows. You can say interactive installed by EDB. Download. Click on download the installer. So which version you want to install? This is the latest PostgreSQL version. So the latest PostgreSQL version is 17.5. 17.5 is the latest PostgreSQL DB version. Clear? So which version you want to install? Okay, suppose I want to install 15.13. So can say this is the version I want to download. So for which operating system? Windows 64-bit, not 32. Nowadays all operating systems Windows, it's a 64-bit only. Linux also, all the OS will be 64-bit only. So I want to install 15.13 PostgreSQL version on top of Windows 64-bit. Click on here. Can say it's going to start download the PostgreSQL 15.13. You can say 15.13 for Windows operating system. So what is the, can say on Windows 64-bit, not 32, because our OS is 64-bit only. So what is the size of this? 335 MB only. What is the PostgreSQL database for Windows? The size is 335 MB only. 335 MB. Okay, let's wait. Once download is finished, we have to install. Let me uninstall. In my case, it's already installed. Let me uninstall. How to uninstall? Let me go to C drive. Yes. Program files. If any software if install, it install the default program files. Can say PostgreSQL. Yes. 15 already installed. Can say this is my When you install PostgreSQL database, home location, home location of PostgreSQL. What is the home location? This is the home location. In case of Windows, the PostgreSQL home location, it will be this is the path where the software will be installing. Next. So their other location is there. You can say. So data. This is the data directory. This is the data directory. We require these two locations whenever you install any database. We require these two locations. LOCA data directory. Data directory. What is the data directory? C drive, program files. Inside there is a PostgreSQL folder. Inside there is a version number. Inside the data. This is the home location. Means where the software will be installed. Where the PG software. PG means Postgres. PG software will be installed. Here where the data files will be stored. Where the data files will be stored. Yes. Where the data files will be stored? Inside the data directory. Where the software will be installed? Inside the home location. This is for Windows only. In Linux, it's a different. Okay. Let me uninstall first. How to uninstall? Can say there is a uninstall. Can say there is uninstall file is there. Go to home location. How to uninstall? Before installing, how to uninstall? How to uninstall Postgres on Windows OS. Go to home location, click on below. You can see, click on below. This is the, you can see, this is the one. This is the one we have to click on this one. Uninstall PostgreSQL. Let me click on this. Going to uninstall. First uninstall. Let me uninstall. Yes. Once installed, everything is removed. The software, whatever the software installed, it's going to entire application I want to uninstall. Click on next. Uninstall PostgreSQL. We have to wait to uninstall all the things. Let's wait. Meanwhile, if you have any queries, let me know. Okay, let's wait. It's going to remove all the software except the data directory. Data files, all the data files will be stored inside the data directory. The data directory we have to remove manually. The except data folder, it's removing all the things. Then only it will finish the uninstallation procedure. Okay. So I can say the data directory 15 data has not been removed except data folder. Everything is removed. Let me remove this folder entire PostgreSQL. Yes. Continue. The folder itself it's removing PostgreSQL. Can say now there is no PostgreSQL. Now we are good to start installation. Let me go to downloads. So this is the software which is downloaded. Just double click on this software. Click on yes. It's asking admin credential. Let's wait. Yes. Click on yes. It's asking admin credential. When you click on yes, it start the installation procedure. Remove data directory manually. Okay, let's wait. You can see. So setup PostgreSQL. Welcome to the PostgreSQL setup wizard. Click on next. This is the default home, the installation directory. So if you don't want to use this default location, if you want to install some other location, click on browse. You can select your location where you want to install. As of now, I want to go with the default location only. The software will be installed this in the inside this location. Click on next. So what are the tools you want to use? You can say I want to install PostgreSQL server. I want to PC admin tool. There is a tool PC admin tool. We'll discuss tomorrow. Command line tools. Except this tag builder. The remaining three I want to install. So if you check mark means going to install. If you uncheck means not going to install. These three I want to install. Click on next. This is the data folder, data directory. What is the purpose of data directory? To store the data files and the configuration files. To store the data files and the configuration files. To store the data files and the configuration files. Okay. So click on next. So please provide a password for the database super user. For Linux, what is the super user? Yes. For Linux, what is the super user?
Root.
Root. So in this PostgreSQL database, what is the super user? Postgres. What is the port number? DB. Every database there is a port number is the default port number. 5432 is the default port number. So default databases. How many database default created? Three databases. One is Postgres. Second is template 0. Third is template 1. Can say. So when you install Postgres database, default one user will get that is username is Postgres. For Linux, root. The same way in the database, PostgreSQL database, the super user is Postgres. Just we have to provide the password. You can say, please provide a password for the database super user. User is already created, default created. So what is the password? I am giving Oracle. Yes, you can give any password. Click on next. What is the default port number? DB 5432. If you don't want to use default port number, if you want to 5433, yes, you can keep it. As of now, I want to go with the default port number. Yes, click on next. You can installation directory, you can verify these all the details. What is the default DB port number? What is the super user? So once verify, click on next. Click on next. It's going to installing Postgres and create the default databases. How many database? Three database is created. What are the Postgres? Template 0, template 1. Let's wait to finish the database installation. Okay, it's installing. Okay, so almost finished. Let's wait. Okay, so click on finish. Now you can verify. So go to the C drive. So program files, click on program files. You can say, so now this folder is created with the today date. You can say date modified type folder. So inside this, yes, the version number 15, major version. So this is the all the softwares installed. This is the data folder. Data directory. This is the data directory. So inside the data directory it contains some folders, files. We'll discuss later. So this is how we are installing Postgres database. So tomorrow we'll see how to connect the database. How to connect the database, then how to install database in Linux. Any queries from anyone?